Economic development programs in the past have failed people, especially poor people, because they didn't include poor people in that initial diagnosis.
But in today's time, when poverty and inequities have a momentum like we've never seen before, those models can't keep up.
If you would do an analysis of economic trends in communities and you would compare those to economic development investments being made, you would want to see that people's income and assets were growing. But in fact, in many of the communities that Nexus works in, we see a decline in people's income and assets.
A news clip stated that it's going to take another 228 years for African American households to catch up to white households as it relates to wealth.
Part of the challenge with current models is that because development is not tied to community, what you get is investments, and then you get disinvestments. The labor of local residents is just a means of generating wealth that leads us right up to the top and right on out of the community.
What we want to get to instead is communities where families have the resources to care for all the people in their family.
The opening up of avenues for people to build the kind of wealth that they need in order to live good quality lives.
The folks at the legislature might call it economic development. Many of the folks in philanthropy call it economic development. But we're like, how do I make a life better for my children and my family?
If that's what we want, we need an economic development system that allows communities to develop wealth and ownership.
Community wealth building is in economic development a model that looks at multiple ways to build wealth, where wealth is more broadly dispersed and more deeply and tightly anchored to people to keep wealth circulating and people in place as long as they want to.
The community wealth building really is acknowledging that there are systems problems, and we have to first look at the whole ecosystem to really assess what is going on, and that the solutions have to be multi-pronged. They have to be dealing with many things in the ecosystem to really get at successful solutions.
At Nexus, we always know that communities of color, indigenous communities, the Black community has to be centered in any of the work that we're going to do. In order to make this happen, the principles that Nexus is building this work on are
Equity,
Stewardship,
Mutuality,
culture.
Those things are really deep community values that make economic principles stronger.
Equity is crucial for building community wealth and prosperity because each community has a different type of situation.
We have to challenge these notions of equality as equity, and first of all, explain to people that equality does not equate equity. The equity is really about the outcomes.
You have to create programs, policy, advocate specifically in detail for communities of color, Black communities, and indigenous communities.
This notion of stewardship is really about how do people have the agency to choose how they build wealth, choose how they pass that wealth on.
It's about a greater sense of authorship. Yes, we consume, but we produce, and we are responsible for governing how that happens.
At the City Lakes Community Land Trust, we've been very purposeful about seeing home ownership as a means to creating community wealth. Every plot of land that's tied to our affordability investment that we make in a household and community ownership. We've now been able to amass close to $7 million in community assets represented across 250 homes. Ultimately, they're the ones that will decide what those community assets do.
In terms of mutuality, is a deep understanding that we're in this together and that we build together and we make things stronger by doing so.
We're really acknowledging that community wealth building is an ecosystem-based approach. Nothing happens in isolation from one another.
So that's why anchor institutions are so important. Because the truth is, it is about mutuality. That if anchor institutions are doing well and they give back to the community the community will be doing well, and they will also be giving back to the anchor institutions. That we are in an intricate web, right, of mutuality.
Culture is the way that we make life.
Leveraging culture as an asset is one of the ways in which you can generate greater economic activity.
We think what makes the Hmong American Farmers Association not only unique but successful is because it comes from our own community, that there's a sense of agency, right? We have a number of projects that are very cooperative in their model, right? Those elements were very accessible to our farmers because in Hmong culture, we have always had this cultural way of working with each other, which in Hmong we call it baoju. We are exchanging each other's labor. That's what the word baoju means. So you have to create structures that not only mimic but are complementary to your own cultural dynamics.
We owe it to ourselves to look to models and approaches that take us further than we've been. Community wealth building is one of those strategies.
If you want something fast, go at it alone, right? But if you want something that's sustained, that will live on, let's go together.
This is a long-term strategy. And so this is the long game, right? This is going to take people from all different sectors.
You got to start with the people most impacted by these problems that we're talking about. So indigenous communities, the Black community, people of color.
We need the public sector to take a leadership role, and that's going to happen at the city level, the county level, the state level, the national level.
It's going to take the private sector and the philanthropic sector. It's going to take everyone.
The reason that we're all in the room at this very same time is because we have something in common. And this is a call to walk the path of that thing that we have in common, and to learn together, and to lean on each other in ways that it leverages what we're already doing. The strength and the possibility that exists in this work lives in all of us doing this together.
We invite you to consider yourself to be part of a community wealth building ecosystem.
We invite you in making community wealth building a powerful and widely used economic development system.
We invite you to join us on this journey of community wealth building.